Book 1, Chapter 1. First, how Uther Pendragon sent for the Duke of Cornwall and Igraine his wife, and of their departing suddenly again. It befell in the days of Uther Pendragon, when he was king of all England, and so reigned, that there was a mighty duke in Cornwall that held war against him long time. And the duke was called the Duke of Tintagel. And so by means King Uther sent for this duke, charging him to bring his wife with him. For she was called a fair lady, and a passing wise, and her name was called Igraine. So when the duke and his wife were come unto the king, by the means of great lords they were accorded both. The king liked and loved this lady well, and he made them great cheer out of measure, and desired to have lain by her. But she was a passing good woman, and would not assent unto the king. And then she told the duke her husband, and said, I suppose that we were sent for that I should be dishonoured. Wherefore, husband, I counsel you, that we depart from hence suddenly, that we may ride all night unto our own castle. And in like wise as she said. So they departed, that neither the king nor none of his council were aware of their departing. Also soon as King Uther knew of their departing so suddenly, he was wonderly wroth. Then he called to him his privy council, and told them of the sudden departing of the duke and his wife. Then they advised the king to send for the duke and his wife by great charge, and if he will not come at your summons, then may ye do your best. Then have ye cause to make mighty war upon him. So that was done, and the messengers had their answers, and that was this shortly, that neither he nor his wife would not come at him. Then was the king wonderly wroth. And then the king sent him plain word again, and bade him be ready and stuff him and garnish him, for within 40 days he would fetch him out of the biggest castle that he hath. When the duke had this warning, anon he went and furnished and garnished 2 strong castles of his, of the which the one hight Tintagel, and the other castle hight Terrible. So his wife Dame Igraine he put in the castle of Tintagel, and himself he put in the castle of Terrible, the which had many issues and posterns out. Then in all haste came Uther with a great host, and laid a siege about the castle of Terrible. And they pight many pavilions, and there was great war made on both parties, and much people slain. Then for pure anger and for great love of fair Igraine the king Uther fell sick. So came to the king Uther Sir Ulfius, a noble knight, and asked the king why he was sick. I shall tell thee, said the king, I am sick for anger and for love of fair Igraine, that I may not be whole. Well, my lord, said Sir Ulfius, I shall seek Merlin, and he shall do you remedy, that your heart shall be pleased. So Ulfius departed, and by adventure he met Merlin in a beggar's array. And then Merlin asked Ulfius whom he sought. And he said he had little ado to tell him. Well, said Merlin, I know whom thou seekest, for thou seekest Merlin. Therefore seek no farther, for I am he. And if King Uther will well reward me, and be sworn unto me to fulfill my desire, that shall be his honour and profit more than mine, for I shall cause him to have all his desire. All this will I undertake, said Ulfius, that there shall be nothing reasonable but thou shalt have thy desire. Well, said Merlin, he shall have his intent and desire. And therefore, said Merlin, ride on your way, for I will not be long behind. Chapter 2. How Uther Pendragon made war on the Duke of Cornwall, and how by the mean of Merlin he lay by the Duchess and gat Arthur. Then Ulfius was glad, and rode on more than a pace till that he came to King Uther Pendragon, and told him he had met with Merlin. Where is he? Said the king. Sir, said Ulfius, he will not dwell long. Therewithal Ulfius was where Merlin stood at the porch of the pavilion's door. And then Merlin was bound to come to the king. When King Uther saw him, he said he was welcome. Sir, said Merlin, I know all your heart every deal, so ye will be sworn unto me as ye be a true king anointed, to fulfill my desire. Ye shall have your desire. Then the king was sworn upon the 4 evangelists. Sir, said Merlin, this is my desire. The first night that ye shall lie by Igraine ye shall get a child on her, and when that is born, that it shall be delivered to me for to nourish there as I will have it. For it shall be your worship, and the child's avail, as mickle as a child is worth. I will well, said the king, as thou wilt have it. Now make you ready, said Merlin. This night ye shall lie with Igraine in the castle of Tintagel, and ye shall be like the duke her husband. Ulfius shall be like Sir Brastias, a knight of the dukes, and I will be like a knight that hight Sir Jadanus, a knight of the dukes. But wait ye make not many questions with a nor men, but say ye are diseased, and so hie you to bed, and rise not on the morn till I come to you. For the castle of Tintagel is but 10 miles hence. So this was done as they devised. But the Duke of Tintagel espied how the king rode from the siege of Terrabil, and therefore that night he issued out of the castle at a postern for to have distressed the king's host. And so, through his own issue, the Duke himself was slain or ever the king came to the castle of Tintagel. So after the death of the Duke, King Uther lay with Igraine more than 3 hours after his death, and begat on her that night Arthur. And on day came Merlin to the king, and bade him make him ready. And so he kissed the lady Igraine, and departed in all haste. But when the lady heard tell of the Duke her husband, and by all record he was dead, or ever King Uther came to her, then she marvelled who that might be that lay with her in likeness of a lord. So she mourned privily and held her peace. Then all the barons by one assent prayed the king of accord betwixt the lady Igraine and him. The king gave them leave, for fain would he have been accorded with her. So the king put all the trust in Ulfis to entreat between them. So by the entreaty at the last the king and she met together. Now will we do well, said Ulfis. Our king is a lusty knight and wifeless, and my lady Igraine is a passing fair lady. It were great joy unto us all, and it might please the king to make her his queen. Unto that they all well accorded, and moved it to the king. And anon, like a lusty knight, he assented thereto with good will, and so in all haste they were married in a morning with great mirth and joy. And King Lot of Lothian and of Orkney then wedded Margaux that was Gawain's mother, and King Nenters of the land of Galahad wedded Elaine. All this was done at the request of King Uther. And the third sister Morgan le Fay was put to school in a nunnery, and there she learned so much that she was a great clerk of necromancy. And after she was wedded to King Uriens of the land of Gaul, that was Sir Egwain's le Blanchemain's father. Chapter 3. Of the birth of King Arthur and of his nurture. Then Queen Igraine waxed daily greater and greater. So it befell after within half a year, as King Uther lay by his queen, he asked her, by the faith she owed to him, whose was a body. Then she so abashed to give answer. Dismay you not, said the king, but tell me the truth, and I shall love you the better by the faith of my body. Sir, said she, I shall tell you the truth. The same night that my lord was dead, the hour of his death, as his knight's record, there came into my castle of Tintagel a man like my lord in speech and in countenance, and 2 knights with him in likeness of his 2 knights Brastias and Jordanus. And so I went unto bed with him as I ought to do with my lord. And the same night, as I shall answer unto God, this child was begotten upon me. That is truth, said the king, as ye say, for it was I myself that came in the likeness, and therefore dismay you not, for I am father of the child. And they told her all the cause, how it was by Merlin's counsel. Then the queen made great joy when she knew who was the father of a child. Soon came Merlin unto the king, and said, Sir, ye must purvey you for the nourishing of your child. As thou wilt, said the king, be it. Well, said Merlin, I know a lord of yours in this land, that is a passing true man and a faithful, and he shall have the nourishing of your child, and his name is Sir Ector, and he is a lord of fair livelihood in many parts in England and Wales. And this lord, Sir Ector, let him be sent for to come and speak with you, and desire him yourself, as he loveth you, that he will put his own child in nourishing to another woman, and that his wife nourish yours. And when the child is born, let it be delivered to me at yonder privy postern unchristened. So like as Merlin devised it was done. And when Sir Ector was come, he made fiance to the king for to nourish the child like as the king desired. And there the king granted Sir Ector great rewards. Then when the lady was delivered, the king commanded 2 knights and 2 ladies to take the child, bound in a cloth of gold, and that ye deliver him to what poor man ye meet at the postern gate of the castle. So the child was delivered unto Merlin, and so he bare it forth unto Sir Ector, and made an holy man to christen him, and named him Arthur. And so Sir Ector's wife nourished him with her own pap. Chapter 4. Of the death of King Uther Pendragon. Then within 2 years King Uther fell sick of a great malady. And in the meanwhile his enemies usurped upon him, and did a great battle upon his men, and slew many of his people. Sir, said Merlin, ye may not lie so as ye do, for ye must of the field though ye ride on an horse litter, for ye shall never have the better of your enemies but if your person be there, and then shall ye have the victory. So it was done as Merlin had devised, And they carried the king forth in an horse litter with a great host towards his enemies. And at St. Albans there met with the king a great host of the north. And that day Sir Ulfius and Sir Brastias did great deeds of arms. And King Uther's men overcame the northern battle and slew many people, and put the remnant to flight. And then the king returned unto London, and made great joy of his victory. And then he fell passing sore sick, so that 3 days and 3 nights he was speechless. Wherefore all the barons made great sorrow, and asked Merlin what counsel were best. There is none other remedy, said Merlin, but God will have his will. But look ye all barons be before King Uther to mourn, and God and I shall make him to speak. So on the morn all the barons with Merlin came before the king. Then Merlin said aloud unto King Uther, Sir, shall your son Arthur be king after your days, of this realm with all the appurtenance? Then Uther Pendragon turned him, and said in hearing of them all, I give him God's blessing in mine, and bid him pray for my soul, and righteously and worshipfully that he claim the crown, upon forfeiture of my blessing. And therewith he yielded up the ghost, and then was he interred as long to a king. Wherefore the queen, fair Igraine, made great sorrow, and all the barons. Chapter 5. How Arthur was chosen king, and of wonders and marvels of a sword taken out of a stone by the said Arthur. Then stood the realm in great jeopardy long while, for every lord that was mighty of men made him strong, and many weened to have been king. Then Merlin went to the Archbishop of Canterbury, and counselled him for to send for all the lords of the realm, and all the gentlemen of arms, that they should to London come by Christmas, upon pain of cursing. And for this cause, that Jesus, that was born on that night, that he would of his great mercy show some miracle, as he was come to be king of mankind, for to show some miracle who should be rightwise king of this realm. So the Archbishop, by the advice of Merlin, sent for all the lords and gentlemen of arms, that they should come by Christmas even unto London. And many of them made them clean of their life, that their prayer might be the more acceptable unto God. So in the greatest church of London, whether it were Paul's or not, the French book maketh no mention, all the estates were long a day in the church for to pray. And when matins and the first mass was done, there was seen in the churchyard, against the high altar, a great stone foursquare, like unto a marble stone, and in midst thereof was like an anvil of steel a foot on high, and therein stuck a fair sword naked by the point, and letters that were written in gold about the sword that said thus, Whoso pulleth out this sword of this stone and anvil is rightwise king born of all England. Then the people marveled, and told it to the Archbishop. I command, said the Archbishop, that ye keep you within your church and pray unto God still, that no man touch the sword till the high mass be all done. So when all masses were done, all the lords went to behold the stone and the sword. And when they saw the scripture, some essayed, such as would have been king. But none might stir the sword nor move it. He is not here, said the Archbishop, that shall achieve the sword, but doubt not God will make him known. But this is my counsel, said the Archbishop, that we let purvey 10 knights, men of good fame, and they to keep this sword. So it was ordained, and then there was made a cry, that every man should essay that would, for to win the sword. And upon New Year's Day the barons let make a joust and a tournament, that all knights that would joust or tourney there might play, and all this was ordained for to keep the lords together in the commons. For the Archbishop trusted that God would make him known that should win the sword. So upon New Year's Day, when the service was done, the barons rode unto the field, some to joust and some to tourney. And so it happened that Sir Ector, that had great livelihood about London, rode unto the joust. And with him rode Sir Kay his son, and young Arthur that was his nourished brother. And Sir Kay was made knight at All Hallowmass afore. So as they rode to the joust ward, Sir Kay lost his sword, for he had left it at his father's lodging. And so he prayed young Arthur for to ride for his sword. I will well, said Arthur, and rode fast after the sword. And when he came home, the lady and all were out to see the jousting. Then was Arthur wroth, and said to himself, I will ride to the churchyard, and take the sword with me that sticketh in the stone, for my brother Sir Kay shall not be without a sword this day. So when he came to the churchyard, so Arthur alighted and tied his horse to the stile, and so he went to the tent, and found no knights there, for they were at the jousting. And so he handled the sword by the handles, and lightly and fiercely pulled it out of the stone, and took his horse and rode his way until he came to his brother Sir Kay, and delivered him the sword. And as soon as Sir Kay saw the sword, he wist well it was the sword of the stone, And so he rode to his father Sir Ector, and said, Sir, lo, here is the sword of the stone, wherefore I must be king of this land. When Sir Ector beheld the sword, he returned again and came to the church, and there they alighted all three, and went into the church. And anon he made Sir Kay swear upon a book how he came to that sword. Sir, said Sir Kay, by my brother Arthur, for he brought it to me. How get ye this sword? Said Sir Ector to Arthur, Sir, I will tell you. When I came home for my brother's sword, I found nobody at home to deliver me his sword, and so I thought my brother Sir Kay should not be swordless, and so I came hither eagerly and pulled it out of the stone without any pain. Found ye any knights about this sword? Said Sir Ector. Nay, said Arthur. Now, said Sir Ector to Arthur, I understand you must be king of this land. Wherefore I, said Arthur, and for what cause? Sir, said Ector, for God will have it so, for there should never man have drawn out this sword, but he that shall be rightwise king of this land. Now let me see whether ye can put the sword there as it was, and pull it out again. That is no mastery, said Arthur, and so he put it in the stone. Wherewithal Sir Ector essayed to pull out the sword and failed. Chapter 6. How King Arthur pulled out the sword divers times. Now essay, said Sir Ector unto Sir Kay. And anon he pulled at the sword with all his might, but it would not be. Now shall ye essay, said Sir Ector to Arthur. I will well, said Arthur, and pulled it out easily. And therewithal Sir Ector knelt down to the earth, and Sir Kay. Alas, said Arthur, my own dear father and brother, why kneel ye to me? Nay, nay, my lord Arthur, it is not so. I was never your father nor of your blood, but I wot well ye are of an higher blood than I weened ye were. And then Sir Ector told him all, how he was betaken him for to nourish him, and by whose commandment, and by Merlin's deliverance. Then Arthur made great dole when he understood that Sir Ector was not his father. Sir, said Ector unto Arthur, will ye be my good and gracious lord when ye are king? Else were I to blame, said Arthur, for ye are the man in the world that I am most beholden to, and my good lady and mother your wife, that as well as her own have fostered me and kept. And if ever it be God's will that I be king as ye say, ye shall desire me what I may do, and I shall not fail you. God forbid I should fail you, sir. Said Sir Ector, I will ask no more of you, but that you will make my son, your foster brother, Sir Kay, seneschal of all your lands. That shall be done, said Arthur, and more, by the faith of my body, that never man shall have that office but he, while he and I live. Therewithal they went unto the archbishop, and told him how the sword was achieved, and by whom. And on 12th day all the barons came thither, and to essay to take the sword, who that would essay. But therefore them all, there might none take it out but Arthur. Wherefore there were many lords wroth, and said it was great shame unto them all in the realm, to be overgoverned with a boy of no high blood born. And so they fell out at that time that it was put off till Candlemas, and then all the barons should meet there again. But always the 10 knights were ordained to watch the sword day and night. And so they set a pavilion over the stone and the sword, and 5 always watched. So at Candlemas many more great lords came thither for to have won the sword, but there might none prevail. And right as Arthur did at Christmas, he did at Candlemas, and pulled out the sword easily, whereof the barons were sore grieved, and put it off in delay till the high feast of Easter. And as Arthur sped before, so did he at Easter. Yet there were some of the great lords had indignation that Arthur should be king, and put it off in delay till the feast of Pentecost. Then the Archbishop of Canterbury by Merlin's providence let purvey then of the best knights that they might get, and such knights as Uther Pendragon loved best and most trusted in his days. And such knights are put about Arthur as Sir Bordwin of Britain, Sir Kay, Sir Ulfius, Sir Brastias. All these, with many other, were always about Arthur, day and night, till the feast of Pentecost. Chapter 7. How King Arthur was crowned, and how he made offices. And at the feast of Pentecost all manner of men essayed to pull at the sword that would essay, but none might prevail but Arthur, and pulled it out afore all the lords and commons that were there. Wherefore all the commons cried at once, We will have Arthur unto our king. We will put him no more in delay. For we all see that it is God's will that he shall be our king, and who that holdeth against it, we will slay him. And therewithal they kneeled at once, both rich and poor, and cried Arthur mercy because they had delayed him so long. And Arthur forgave them, and took the sword between both his hands, and offered it upon the altar where the archbishop was. And so was he made knight of the best man that was there. And so anon was the coronation made. And there was he sworn unto his lords and the commons for to be a true king, to stand with true justice from thenceforth the days of this life. Also then he made all lords that held of the crown to come in, and to do service as they ought to do. And many complaints were made unto Sir Arthur of great wrongs that were done since the death of King Uther, of many lands that were bereaved lords, knights, ladies, and gentlemen. Wherefore King Arthur made the lands to be given again unto them that owned them. When this was done, that the king had established all the countries about London, then he let make Sir Kay seneschal of England, and Sir Baldwin of Britain was made constable, and Sir Ulfius was made chamberlain, and Sir Brastias was made warden to wait upon the north from Trent forwards, for it was at time the most party the king's enemies. But within few years after Arthur won all the north, Scotland, and all that were under their obeisance. Also Wales, a part of it, held against Arthur, but he overcame them all, as he did the remnant, through the noble prowess of himself and his knights of the Round Table. Chapter 8. How King Arthur held in Wales, at a Pentecost, a great feast, and what kings and lords came to his feast. Then the king removed into Wales, and let cry a great feast that it should be holden at Pentecost after the incoronation of him at the city of Carlion. Unto the feast came King Lot of Lothian and of Orkney, with 500 knights with him. Also there came to the feast King Uriens of Gaul with 400 knights with him. Also there came to that feast King Nentes of Galahad, with 700 knights with him. Also there came to the feast the King of Scotland with 600 knights with him, and he was but a young man. Also there came to the feast a king that was called the King with the 100 knights, but he and his men were passing well beseen at all points. Also there came the King of Carados with 500 knights. And King Arthur was glad of their coming, for he weened that all the kings and knights had come for great love, and to have done him worship at his feast. Wherefore the king made great joy, and sent the kings and knights great presents. But the kings would none receive, but rebuked the messengers shamefully, and said they had no joy to receive no gifts of a beardless boy that was come of low blood, and sent him word they would none of his gifts, but that they were come to give him gifts with hard swords betwixt the neck and the shoulders, and therefore they came thither. So they told to the messengers plainly, for it was great shame to all them to see such a boy to have a rule of so noble a realm as this land was. With this answer the messengers departed, and told to King Arthur this answer. Wherefore, by the advice of his barons, he took him to a strong tower with 500 good men with him. And all the kings aforesaid in a manner laid a siege to him. But King Arthur was well victualled. And within 15 days there came Merlin among them into the city of Carlion. Then all the kings were passing glad of Merlin, and asked him, For what cause is that boy Arthur made your king? Sirs, said Merlin, I shall tell you the cause, for he is King Uther Pendragon's son, born in wedlock, gotten on Igraine, the duke's wife of Tintagel. Then is he a bastard, they said all. Nay, said Merlin, after the death of the duke, more than 3 hours, was Arthur begotten, and 13 days after King Uther wedded Igraine, and therefore I prove him he is no bastard. And who saith nay, he shall be king and overcome all his enemies, and, or he die, he shall be long king of all England, and of under his obeisance Wales, Ireland, and Scotland, and more realms than I will now rehearse. Some of the kings had marvel of Merlin's words, and deemed well that it should be as he said, and some of them laughed him to scorn, as King Lot, and more other called him a witch. But then were they accorded with Merlin, that King Arthur should come out and speak with the kings, and to come safe and to go safe. Such assurance there was made. So Merlin went unto King Arthur, and told him how he had done, and bade him fear not, but come out boldly and speak with them, and spare them not, but answer them as their king and chieftain, for ye shall overcome them all, whether they will or nill. Chapter 9. Of the first war that King Arthur had, and how he won the field. Then King Arthur came out of his tower, and had under his gown a jesseraunt of double mail, and there went with him the Archbishop of Canterbury, and Sir Baldwin of Britain, and Sir Kay, and Sir Brastias. These were the men of most worship that were with him. And when they were met, there was no meekness, but stout words on both sides. But always King Arthur answered them, and said he would make them to bow when he lived. Wherefore they departed with wrath, and King Arthur bade keep them well, and they bade the king keep him well. So the king returned him to the tower again and armed him and all his knights. What will ye do? Said Merlin to the kings. Ye were better for the stint, for ye shall not here prevail though ye were 10 times so many. Be we well advised to be afeard of a dream reader? Said King Lot. With that Merlin vanished away, and came to King Arthur, and bade him set on them fiercely. And in the meanwhile there were 300 good men, of the best that were with the kings, that went straight unto King Arthur, and that comforted him greatly. Sir, said Merlin to Arthur, fight not with the sword that ye had by miracle, till that ye see go unto the worse. Then draw it out and do your best. So forthwithal King Arthur set upon them in their lodging. And Sir Bordwin, Sir Kay, and Sir Brastias slew on the right hand and on the left hand, that it was marvel. And always King Arthur on horseback laid on with a sword, and did marvellous deeds of arms, that many of the kings had great joy of his deeds and hardiness. Then King Lot brake out on the backside, and the king with 100 knights, and King Carados, and set on Arthur fiercely behind him, with that Sir Arthur turned with his knights, and smote behind and before. And ever Sir Arthur was in the foremost, pressed till his horse was slain underneath him. And therewith King Lot smote down King Arthur, with that his 4 knights received him and set him on horseback. Then he drew his sword Excalibur, but it was so bright in his enemies' eyes that it gave light like 30 torches. And therewith he put them aback, and slew much people. And then the commons of Carline arose with clubs and staves, and slew many knights. But all the kings held them together with their knights that were left alive, and so fled and departed. And Merlin came unto Arthur, and counselled him to follow them no further. Chapter 10. How Merlin counselled King Arthur to send for King Ban and King Bors, and of their counsel taken for the war. So after the feast and journey, King Arthur drew him unto London. And so by the counsel of Merlin, the king let call his barons to council, for Merlin had told the king that the 6 kings that made war upon him would in all haste be aroke on him and on his lands. Wherefore the king asked counsel at them all. They could no counsel give, but said they were big enough. Ye say well, said Arthur, I thank you for your good courage, but will ye all that loveth me speak with Merlin? Ye know well that he hath done much for me, and he knoweth many things. And when he is afore you, I would that ye prayed him heartily of his best advice. All the barons said they would pray him and desire him. So Merlin was sent for, and fair desired of all the barons to give them best counsel. I shall say you, said Merlin, I warn you all, your enemies are passing strong for you, and they are good men of arms as be alive, and by this time they have gotten to them 4 kings more, and a mighty duke. And unless that our king have more chivalry with him than he may make within the bounds of his own realm, and he fight with them in battle, he shall be overcome and slain. What were best to do in this cause? Said all the barons. I shall tell you, said Merlin, mine advice. There are 2 brethren beyond the sea, and they be kings both, and marvellous good men of their hands, and that one hight King Ban of Benwick, and that other hight King Bors of Gaul, that is France. And on these 2 kings warreth a mighty man of men, the King Claudas, and striveth with them for a castle, and great wars betwixt them. But this Claudas is so mighty of goods whereof he getteth good knights, that he putteth these 2 kings most part to the worse. Wherefore this is my counsel, that our king and sovereign lord send unto the king's Ban and Bors by 2 trusty knights with letters well devised. Then they will come and see King Arthur in his court, and so help him in his wars, that he will be sworn unto them to help them in their wars against King Claudas. Now, what say ye unto this counsel? Said Merlin. This is well counselled, said the king and all the barons. Right so in all haste there were ordained to go 2 knights on the message unto the 2 kings. So were there made letters in the pleasant wise according unto King Arthur's desire. Ulfius and Brastias were made the messengers, and so rode forth well horsed and well armed, and as the guise was at time, and so passed the sea and rode toward the city of Benwick. And there besides were 8 knights that espied them, and at a straight passage they met with Ulfius and Brastias, and would have taken them prisoners. So they prayed them that they might pass, for they were messengers unto King Ban and Bors sent from King Arthur. Therefore, said the 8 knights, ye shall die or be prisoners, for we be knights of King Claudas. And therewith 2 of them dressed their spears, and Ulfius and Brastias dressed their spears, and ran together with great raundon. And Claudas' knights brake their spears, and theirs to held and bare the 2 knights out of their saddles to the earth, and so left them lying, and rode their ways. And the other 6 knights rode afore to a passage to meet with them again. And so Ulfius and Brastias smote other 2 down, and so passed on their ways. And at the 4th passage there met 2 for 2, and both were laid unto the earth. So there was none of the 8 knights but he was so hurt or bruised. And when they come to Benwick, it fortuned there were both kings, Ban and Bors. And when it was told the kings that there were come messengers, there were sent unto them 2 knights of worship. The one hight Lances, lord of the country of Payan, and Sir Feriance, a worshipful knight. Anon they asked from whence they came, and they said from King Arthur, King of England. So they took them in their arms and made great joy each of other. But anon, as the 2 kings which they were messengers of Arthur's, there was made no tarrying, but forthwith they spake with the knights, and welcomed them in the faithfullest wise, and said they were most welcome unto them before all the kings living. And therewith they kissed the letters and delivered them. And when Ban and Bors understood the letters, then they were more welcome than they were before. And after the haste of the letters they gave them this answer, that they would fulfill the desire of King Arthur's writing, and Ulfius and Brastias tarry there as long as they would. They should have such cheer as might be made them in those marches. Then Ulfius and Brastias told the kings of the adventure at their passages of the 8 knights. Ha! Ah! Said Ban and Bors, they were my good friends. I would I had wist of them. They should not have escaped so. So Ulfius and Brastias had good cheer and great gifts, as much as they might bear away, and had their answer by mouth and by writing, that those 2 kings would come unto Arthur in all the haste that they might. So the 2 knights rode on afore, and passed the sea, and came to their lord, and told him how they had sped, whereof King Arthur was passing glad. At what time suppose you the 2 kings will be here? Sir, said they, afore all Hellowmas. Then the king let purvey for a great feast, and let cry a great joust. And by all Hellowmas the 2 kings were come over the sea with 300 knights well arrayed both for the peace and for the war. And King Arthur met with them 10 mile out of London, and there was great joy as could be thought or made. And on all Hellowmas at the great feast, set in the hall the 3 kings, and Sir Kay seneschal serve in the hall, and Sir Lucas the butler, that was Duke Cornea's son, and Sir Griflet, that was the son of Cardle. These 3 knights had the rule of all the service that served the kings. And anon, as they had was hen and risen, all knights that would joust made them ready. By then they were ready on horseback. There were 700 knights. And Arthur, Ban, and Bors, with the Archbishop of Canterbury, and Sir Ector, Kay's father, they were in a place covered with cloth of gold like an hall, with ladies and gentlewomen, for to behold who did best, and thereon to give judgment. Chapter 11. Of a great tourney made by King Arthur and the 2 kings Ban and Bors, and how they went over the sea. And King Arthur and the 2 kings let depart the 700 knights in 2 parties. And there were 300 knights of the realm of Benwick, and of gold turned on the other side. Then they dressed their shields, and began to couch their spears many good knights. So Griflet was the first that met with a knight, one Ladinas, and they met so eagerly that all men had wonder, and they so fought that their shields fell to pieces, and horse and man fell to the earth. And both the French knight and the English knight lay so long that all men weened they had been dead. When Lucas the butler saw Griflet so lie, he horsed him again anon, and they 2 did marvellous deeds of arms with many bachelors. Also Sir Kay came out of an ambushment with 5 knights with him, and they 6 smote other 6 down. But Sir Kay did that day marvellous deeds of arms, that there was none did so well as he that day. Then there came Ladinas and Gratian, 2 knights of France, and did passing well, that all men praised them. Then came there Sir Placidas, a good knight, and met with Sir Kay, and smote him down horse and man, wherefore Sir Griflet was wroth, and met with Sir Placidas so hard, that horse and man fell to the earth. But when the 5 knights wist that Sir Kay had a fall, they were wroth out of wit, and therewith each of them 5 bare down a knight. When King Arthur and the 2 kings saw them begin to wax rough on both parties, they leapt on small hackneys, and let cry that all men should depart unto their lodging. And so they went home and unarmed them, and so to even song and supper. And after, the 3 kings went into a garden, and gave a prize unto Sir Kay, and to Lucas the butler, and unto Sir Griflet. And then they went unto council, and with them Gwenbowes, the brother unto Sir Ban and Bors, a wise clerk, and thither went Ulfius and Brastias, and Merlin. And after they had been in council, they went unto bed. And on the morn they heard mass, and to dinner, and so to their council, and made many arguments what were best to do. At the last they were concluded, that Merlin should go with a token of King Ban, and that was a ring, unto his men and King Bors, and Gratian and Placidas should go again and keep their castles and their countries. As for King Ban of Benwick, and King Bors of Gaul had ordained them, and so passed the sea and came to Benwick. And when the people saw King Ban's ring, and Gratian and Placidas, they were glad, and asked how the kings fared, and made great joy of their welfare and courting. And according unto the sovereign lord's desire, the men of war made them ready in all haste possible. So there were 15,000 on horse and foot, and they had great plenty of victual with them by Merlin's provision. But Gratian and Placidas were left to furnish and garnish the castles, for dread of King Claudas. Right so Merlin passed the sea, well victualled both by water and by land. And when he came to the sea, he sent home the footmen again, and took no more with him but 10,000 men on horseback, the most part men of arms, and so shipped and passed the sea into England, and landed at Dover. And through the wit of Merlin, he had the host northward, the previous way that could be thought, unto the forest of Bedegraine, and there in a valley he lodged them secretly. Then rode Merlin unto Arthur and the two kings, and told them how he had sped, whereof they had great marvel, that men on earth might speed so soon, and go and come. So Merlin told them 10,000 were in the forest of Bedegraine, well armed at all points. Then was there no more to say, but to horseback went all the hosts as Arthur had afore purveyed. So with 20,000 he passed by night and day, but there was made such an ordinance afore by Merlin, that there should no man of war ride nor go in no country on this side Trent water, but he had a token from King Arthur, wherethrough the king's enemies durst not ride as they did tofore to espy. Chapter 12. How 11 kings gathered a great host against King Arthur. And so within a little space the 3 kings came unto the castle of Bedegraine, and found there a passing fair fellowship, and well beseen, whereof they had great joy, and victual they wanted none. This was the cause of the northern host, that they were reared for the despite and rebuke the 6 kings had at Carlion. And those 6 kings by their means get unto them 5 other kings, and thus they began to gather their people. And now they swear that for weal nor woe they should not leave other, till they had destroyed Arthur. And then they made an oath. The first that began the oath was the Duke of Cambernet, that he would bring with him 5,000 men of arms, the which were ready on horseback. Then sware King Brandegoris of Strangor that he would bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. Then sware King Clariance of Northumberland he would bring 3,000 men of arms. Then sware the King of the 100 Knights, that was a passing good man and a young, that he would bring 4,000 men of arms on horseback. Then there swore King Lot, a passing good knight, and Sir Gawain's father, that he would bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. Also there swore King Uriens, that was Uwain's father, of the land of Gaul, and he would bring 6,000 men of arms on horseback. Also there swore King Idas of Cornwall, that he would bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. Also there swore King Credelmus to bring 5,000 men on horseback. Also there swore King Agwisance of Ireland to bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. Also there swore King Nentus to bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. Also there swore King Carados to bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. So their whole host was of clean men of arms on horseback 50,000, and afoot 10,000 of good men's bodies. Then were they soon ready, and mounted upon horse and sent forth their foreriders. For these 11 kings in their ways laid a siege unto the castle of Bedegraine. And so they departed and drew toward Arthur, and left few to abide at the siege. For the castle of Bedegraine was holden of King Arthur, and the men that were therein were Arthur's. Chapter 13. Of a dream of the king with the 100 knights. So by Merlin's advice there were sent foreriders to skim the country, and they met with the foreriders of the north, and made them to tell which way the host came. And then they told it to Arthur, and by King Ban and Bors' counsel they let burn and destroy all the country afore them, that they should ride. The king with the 100 knights met a wonder dream 2 nights afore the battle, that there blew a great wind, and blew down their castles and their towns. And after that came a water and bare it all away. All that heard of the Sueven said it was a token of great battle. Then by counsel of Merlin, when they wist which way the 11 kings would ride and lodge at night, at midnight they set upon them, as they were in their pavilions. But the scout watch by their host cried, Lords, at arms, for here be your enemies at your hand. Chapter 14. How the 11 kings with their host fought against Arthur and his host, and many great feats of the war. Then King Arthur and King Ban and King Bors, with their good and trusty knights, set on them so fiercely that they made them overthrow their pavilions on their heads. But the 11 kings, by manly prowess of arms, took a fair champaign, but there was slain that Morte 10,000 good men's bodies. And so they had afore them a strong passage, yet were they 50,000 of hardy men. Then it drew toward day. Now shall ye do by mine advice, said Merlin unto the 3 kings. I would that King Ban and King Bors, with their fellowship of 10,000 men, will put in a wood here beside, in an ambushment, and keep them privy, and that they be laid or the light of the day come, and that they stir not till ye and your knights have fought with them long. And when it is daylight, dress your battle even afore them in the passage, that they may see all your host. For then will they be the more hardy, when they see but about 20,000 men, and cause them to be the gladder to suffer you and your host to come over the passage. All the 3 kings and the whole barons said that Merlin said passingly well, and it was done anon as Merlin had devised. So on the morn, when either host saw other, the host of the north was well comforted. Then to Ulfius and Brastias were delivered 3,000 men of arms, and they set on them fiercely in the passage, and slew on the right hand and on the left hand, that it was wonder to tell. When that the 11 kings saw that there was so few of fellowship did such deeds of arms, they were ashamed and set on them again fiercely. And there was Ulfius's horse slain under him, but he did marvellously well on foot. But the Duke Eustace of Cambernet and King Clarence of Northumberland were always grievous on Ulfius. Then Brastias, who his fellow fared, so withal he smote the Duke with a spear, that horse and man fell down. That saw King Clarence, and returned unto Brastias, and either smote other, so that horse and man went to the earth, and so they lay long astonied, and their horses' knees brast to the hard bone. Then came Sir Kay the seneschal with 6 fellows with him, and did passing well. With that came the 11 kings, and there was Gryflet put to the earth, horse and man, and Lucas the butler, horse and man, by King Brandegoris, and King Idas, and King Agwisance. Then waxed a medley passing hard on both parties. When Sir Kay saw Gryflet on foot, he rode on King Nentis and smote him down, and led his horse unto Sir Gryflet, and horsed him again. Also Sir Kay with the same spear smote down King Lot, and hurt him passing sore. That saw the king with 100 knights, and ran unto Sir Kay and smote him down, and took his horse, and gave him King Lot, whereof he said gramercy. When Sir Gryflet saw Sir Kay and Lucas the butler on foot, he took a sharp spear, great and square, and rode to Penel, a good man of arms, and smote horse and man down. And then he took his horse, and gave him unto Sir Kay. Then King Lot saw King Nentis on foot. He ran unto Melot de Larush, and smote him down, horse and man, and gave King Nentis the horse, and horsed him again. Also the king of the 100 knights saw King Idas on foot. Then he ran unto Gwynedd de Blois, and smote him down, horse and man, and gave King Idas the horse, and horsed him again. And King Lot smote down Clarence de La for a savage, and gave the horse unto Duke Eustace. And so when they had horsed the kings again, they drew them, all 11 kings, together, and said they would be revenged of the damage that they had taken that day. The meanwhile came in Sir Ector with an eager countenance, and found Ulfius and Brastias on foot, in great peril of death, that were foul death-oiled under horse feet. Then Arthur as a lion ran unto King Cradomon of North Wales, and smote him through the left side, that the horse and the king fell down. And then he took the horse by the rein, and led him unto Ulfius, and said, Have this horse, mine old friend, for great needest thou a horse. Gramercy, said Ulfius. Then Sir Arthur did so marvellously in arms, that all men had wonder. When the king with the 100 knights saw King Cradomon on foot, he ran unto Sir Ector, that was well horsed, Sir Kay's father, and smote horse and man down, and gave the horse unto the king, and horsed him again. And when King Arthur saw the king ride on Sir Ector's horse, he was wroth, and with his sword he smote the king on the helm, that a quarter of the helm and shield fell down, and so the sword carved down unto the horse's neck, and so the king and the horse fell down to the ground. Then Sir Kay came unto Sir Morganor, seneschal with the king of the 100 knights, and smote him down, horse and man, and led the horse unto his father, Sir Ector. Then Sir Ector ran unto a knight, hight Lardens, and smote horse and man down, and led the horse unto Sir Brastias, that great need had of an horse, and was greatly defoiled. When Brastias beheld Lucas the butler, that lay like a dead man under the horse's feet, and ever Sir Griflet did marvellously for to rescue him, and there were always 14 knights on Sir Lucas, then Brastias smote one of them on the helm, that it went to the teeth, and he rode to another and smote him, that the arm flew into the field. Then he went to the third and smote him on the shoulder, that shoulder and arm flew in the field. And when Griflet saw rescues, he smote a knight on the temples, that head and helm went to the earth. And Griflet took the horse of that knight, and led him unto Sir Lucas, and bade him mount upon the horse and revenge his hurts. For Brastias had slain a knight to fore and horse Griflet. Chapter 15. Yet of the same battle. Then Lucas saw King Agwisance, that late had slain Maurice de Laroche, and Lucas ran to him with a short spear that was great, that he gave him such a fall that the horse fell down to the earth. Also Lucas found there on foot Bloyers de la Flandres and Sir Guiners, 2 hardy knights, and in that woodness that Lucas was in, he slew 2 bachelors and horsed them again. Then waxed the battle passing hard on both parties, but Arthur was glad that his knights were horsed again, and then they fought together, that the noise and sound rang by the water and the wood. Wherefore King Ban and King Bors made them ready, and dressed their shields and harness, and they were so courageous that many knights shook in beverly for eagerness. All this while Lucas, and Guiners, and Bryant, and Belliers of Flanders, held strong medley against 6 kings, that was King Lot, King Nenters, King Brandegoris, King Idas, King Uriens, and King Agwisance. So with the help of Sir Kay and of Sir Griflet, they held these 6 kings hard, that unnethe they had any power to defend them. But when Sir Arthur saw the battle would not be ended by no manner, he fared wood as a lion, and steered his horse here and there, on the right hand and on the left hand, that he stinted not till he had slain 20 knights. Also he wounded King Lotso on the shoulder, and made him to leave their ground. For Sir Kay and Griflet did with King Arthur their great deeds of arms. Then Ulfius and Brastias, and Sir Ector encountered against the Duke Eustace, and King Cradlement, and King Clarience of Northumberland, and King Carados, and against the king with the 100 knights. So these knights encountered with these kings, that they made them to avoid the ground. Then King Lot made great dole for his damages and his fellows, and said unto the 10 kings, But if ye will do as I devise, we shall be slain and destroyed. Let me have the king with the 100 knights, and King Agwisance, and King Idas, and the Duke of Cambenet, and we 5 kings will have 15,000 men of arms with us, and we will go apart while ye 6 kings hold medley with 12,000, and we see that ye have foughten with them long. Then will we come on fiercely, and else shall we never match them, said King Lot, but by this mean. So they departed as they had devised, and 6 kings made their party strong against Arthur, and made great war long. In the meanwhile brake the ambushment of King Ban and King Bors, and Lionses and Pharians had the vanguard, and they 2 knights met with King Idas and his fellowship, and there began a great medley of breaking of spears, and smiting of swords, with slaying of men and horses, and King Idas was near discomfiture, that saw Agwisance the king, and put Lionses and Pharians in point of death, for the Duke of Cambenet came on withal with a great fellowship. So these 2 knights were in great danger of their lives, that they were fain to return, but always they rescued themselves and their fellowship marvellously. When King Bors saw those knights put back, it grieved him sore. Then he came on so fast that his fellowship seemed as black as Indy. When King Lot had espied King Bors, he knew him well. Then he said, O Jesu, defend us from death and horrible maims. For I see well we be in great peril of death. For I see yonder a king, one of the most worshipfullest men and one of the best knights of the world, is inclined unto his fellowship. What is he? Said the king with the 100 knights. It is, said King Lot, King Bors of Gaul. I marvel how they came into this country without witting of us all. It was by Merlin's advice, said the knight. As for him, said King Carados, I will encounter with King Bors, and ye will rescue me when Mr. is. Go on, said they all, we will do all that we may. Then King Carados and his host rode on a soft pace, till they came as nigh King Bors' bowdraft. Then either battle let their horse run as fast as they might. And Bleoberis, that was godson unto King Bors, he bare his chief standard, that was a passing good knight. Now shall we see, said King Bors, how these northern Britons can bear the arms. And King Bors encountered with a knight, and smote him throughout with a spear that he fell dead unto the earth, and after drew his sword and did marvellous deeds of arms, that all parties had great wonder thereof. And his knights failed not, but did their part, and King Carados was smitten to the earth. With that came the king with 100 knights, and rescued King Carados mightily by force of arms, for he was a passing good knight of a king, and but a young man. Chapter 16. Yet more of the same battle. By then came into the field King Ban as fierce as a lion, with bands of green and thereupon gold. Ha! Hey! Said King Lot, we must be discomfited, for yonder I see the most valiant knight of the world, and the man of the most renown, for such two brethren as is King Ban and King Bors are not living, wherefore we must needs void or die, and but if we avoid manly and wisely there is but death. When King Ban came into the battle, he came in so fiercely that the strokes redounded again from the wood and the water. Wherefore King Lot wept for pity and dole that he saw so many good knights take their end. But through the great force of King Ban they made both the northern battles that were departed hurtle together for great dread. And the 3 kings and their knights slew on ever, that it was pity on to behold that multitude of the people that fled. But King Lot, and king of the 100 knights, and King Morganor gathered the people together passing nightly, and did great prowess of arms, and held the battle all that day, like hard. When the king of the 100 knights beheld the great damage that King Ban did, he thrust unto him with his horse, and smote him on high upon the helm, a great stroke, and astonied him sore. Then King Ban was wroth with him, and followed on him fiercely. The other saw that, and cast up his shield, and spurred his horse forward. But the stroke of King Ban fell down and carved a cantel off the shield, and the sword slid down by the hauberk behind his back, and cut through the trepping of steel, and the horse even in 2 pieces, that the sword felt the earth. Then the king of the 100 knights voided the horse lightly, and with his sword he broached the horse of King Ban through and through. With that King Ban voided lightly from the dead horse, and then King Ban smote at the other so eagerly, and smote him on the helm that he fell to the earth. Also in that ire he felled King Morganor, and there was great slaughter of good knights and much people. By then came into the press King Arthur, and found King Ban standing among dead men and dead horses, fighting on foot as a wood lion, that there came none nigh him, as far as he might reach with his sword, but he caught a grievous buffet, whereof King Arthur had great pity. And Arthur was so bloody, that by his shield there might no man know him, for all was blood and brains on his sword. And as Arthur looked by him, he saw a knight that was passingly well horsed, and therewith Sir Arthur ran to him, and smote him on the helm, that his sword went unto his teeth, and the knight sank down to the earth dead. And anon Arthur took the horse by the rein, and led him unto King Ban, and said, Fair brother, have this horse, for ye have great mister thereof, and me repenteth sore of your great damage. It shall be soon revenged, said King Ban, for I trust in God mine you is not such but some of the may so repent this. I will well, said Arthur, for I see your deeds full actual. Nevertheless, I might not come at you at that time. But when King Ban was mounted on horseback, then there began new battle, the which was sore and hard, and passing great slaughter. And so through great force King Arthur, King Ban, and King Bors made their knights a little to withdraw them. But alway the 11 kings with their chivalry never turned back, and so withdrew them to a little wood, and so over a little river, and there they rested them, for on the night they might have no rest on the field. And then the 11 kings and knights put them on a heap altogether, as men adread and out of all comfort. But there was no man might pass them. They held them so hard together both behind and before, that King Arthur had marvel of their deeds of arms, and was passing wroth. Ah, Sir Arthur, said King Ban and King Bors, blame them not, for they do as good men ought to do. For by my faith, said King Ban, they are the best fighting men, and knights of most prowess, that ever I saw or heard speak of, and those 11 kings are men of great worship. And if they were longing unto you, there were no king under the heaven had such 11 knights, and of such worship. I may not love them, said Arthur, they would destroy me. That wot we well, said King Ban and King Bors, for they are your mortal enemies, and that have been proved beforehand. And this day they have done their part, and that is great pity of their wilfulness. Then all the 11 kings drew them together, and then said King Lot, Lords, ye must other ways than ye do, or else the great loss is behind. You may see what people we have lost, and what good men we lose, because we wait always on these footmen, and ever in saving of one of the footmen we lose 10 horsemen for him. Therefore this is mine advice. Let us put our footmen from us, for it is near night. For the noble Arthur will not tarry on the footmen, for they may save themselves. The wood is near hand. And when we horsemen be together, look every each of you kings let make such ordinance that none break upon pain of death. And who that seeth any man dress him to flee, lightly that he be slain, for it is better that we slay a coward, than through a coward all we to be slain. How say ye? Said King Lot, answer me all ye kings. It is well said, quoth King Nentus. So said the king of the 100 knights. The same said the king Carados, and King Uriens. So did King Idas and King Brandegoris, and so did King Cradomint and the Duke of Cambinet. The same said King Clarions and King Agwisance, and sware they would never fail other, neither for life nor for death. And whoso that fled, but did as they did, should be slain. Then they amended their harness, and righted their shields, and took new spears, and set them on their thighs, and stood still as it had been a plump of wood. Chapter 17. Yet more of the same battle, and how it was ended by Merlin. When Sir Arthur and King Ban and Bors beheld them and all their knights, they praised them much for their noble cheer of chivalry, for the hardiest fighters that ever they heard or saw. With that, they addressed them of 40 noble knights, and said unto the 3 kings, they would break their battle. These were their names, Lionses, Pharians, Ulfis, Brastias, Ector, Kay, Lucas the butler, Gryphel the Fires the Dayu, Mariah de la Roche, Guinaz de Blois, Brian de la Forest Savage, Belaus, Morians of the Castle Maidens, Flenidrias of the Castle of Ladies, Anicians that was King Bors' godson, a noble knight, Ladinas de la Rouse, Emeros, Colas, Gratians le Casline, Wonbois, de la Case, and Sir Colbrevance de Gore. All these knights rode on afore with spears on their thighs, and spurred their horses mightily as the horses might run. And the 11 kings with part of their knights rushed with their horses as fast as they might with their spears, and that they did on both parties marvellous deeds of arms. So came into the thick of the press Arthur, Ban, and Bors, and slew down right on both hands, that their horses went in blood up to the fetlocks. But ever the 11 kings, and their host was ever in the visage of Arthur. Wherefore Ban and Bors had great marvel, considering the great slaughter that there was. But at the last they were driven aback over a little river, where there came Merlin on a great black horse, and said unto Arthur, Thou hast never done. Hast thou not done enough? Of 70,000 this day hast thou left alive but 15,000, and it is time to say ho. For God is wroth with thee, that thou wilt never have done. For yonder 11 kings at this time will not be overthrown, but an thou tarry on them any longer, thy fortune will turn and they shall increase. And therefore withdraw you unto your lodging, and rest you as soon as ye may, and reward your good knights with gold and with silver, for they have well deserved it. There may no riches be too dear for them, for so few men as ye have, there were never men did more prowess than they have done today, for ye have matched this day with the best fighters of the world. That is truth, said King Ban and Bors. Also said Merlin, Withdraw you where ye list, for this 3 year I dare undertake they shall not dare you, and by then ye shall hear new tidings. And then Merlin said unto Arthur, These 11 kings have more in hand than they are aware of. For the Saracens are landed in their countries, more than 40,000, that burn and slay, and have laid siege at the castle Wansborough, and make great destruction. Therefore dread you not this 3 year. Also, so, all the goods are begotten at this battle, let it be searched, and when ye have it in your hands, let it be given freely unto these 2 kings, Ban and Bors, that they may reward their knights withal, and that shall cause strangers to be of better will to do you service at need. Also you be able to reward your own knights of your own goods whensoever it liketh you. It is well said, quoth Arthur, and as thou hast devised, so shall it be done. When it was delivered to Ban and Bors, they gave the goods as freely to their knights as freely as it was given to them. Then Merlin took his leave of Arthur and of the 2 kings, for to go and see his master Blaise, that dwelt in Northumberland. And so he departed and came to his master, that was passing glad of his coming. And they told how Arthur and the 2 kings had sped of the great battle, and how it was ended, and told the names of every king and knight of worship that was there. And so Blaise wrote the battle word by word, as Merlin told him, how it began, and by whom, and in likewise how it was ended, and who had the worse. All the battles that were done in Arthur's days Merlin did his master Blaise do right. Also he did do right all the battles that every worthy knight did of Arthur's court. After this Merlin departed from his master and came to King Arthur, that was in the castle of Bettigraine, that was one of the castles that stand in the forest of Sherwood. And Merlin was so disguised that King Arthur knew him not, for he was all befurred in black sheepskins, and a great pair of boots, and a bow and arrows, in a russet gown, and brought wild geese in his hand. And it was on the morn after Candlemas Day. But King Arthur knew him not. Sir, said Merlin unto the king, will ye give me a gift? Wherefore, said King Arthur, should I give thee a gift? Churl? Sir, said Merlin, you were better to give me a gift that is not in your hand than to lose great riches. For here in the same place where the great battle was, is great treasure hid in the earth. Who told thee so? Churl? Said Arthur. Merlin told me so, said he. Then Ulfius and Brastias knew him well enough, and smiled. Sir, said these two knights, it is Merlin that so speaketh unto you. Then King Arthur was greatly abashed, and had marvel of Merlin. And so had King Ban and King Bors, and so they had great disport at him. So in the meanwhile there came a damosel that was an earl's daughter. His name was Senarm, and her name was Lioness, a passing fair damosel. And so she came thither for to do homage, as other lords did after the great battle. And King Arthur set his love greatly upon her, and so did she upon him. And the king had to do with her, and get on her a child. His name was Bor, that was after a good knight, and of the Table Round. Then there came word that the King Rience of North Wales made great war on King Leodegrance of Camelot, for the which thing Arthur was wroth, for he loved him well, and hated King Rience, for he was alway against him. So by ordinance of the three kings that was sent home under Benwick, all they would depart for dread of King Claudas, and Phariance, and Antames, and Gratian, and Limeses Payan, were the leaders of those that should keep the king's lands. Chapter 18. How King Arthur, King Ban, and King Bors rescued King Leodegrance, and other incidents. And then King Arthur, and King Ban, and King Bors departed with their fellowship, 20,000, and came within 6 days into the country of Camelot, and there rescued King Leodegrance, and slew there much people of King Rience, under the number of 10,000 men, and put him to flight. And then had these three kings great cheer of King Leodegrance, that thanked them of their great goodness, that they would revenge him of his enemies. And there had Arthur the first sight of Guinevere, the king's daughter of Camelot, and ever after he loved her, after they were wedded, as it telleth in the book. So, briefly to make an end, they took their leave to go into their own countries, for King Claudas did great destruction on their lands. Then said Arthur, I will go with you. Nay, said the kings, ye shall not at this time, for ye have much to do yet in these lands. Therefore we will depart, and with the great goods that we have gotten in these lands by your gifts, we shall wage good knights and withstand the King Claudas' malice. For by the grace of God, and we have need, we will send to you for your succor. And if ye have need, send for us, and we will not tarry by the faith of our bodies. It shall not, said Merlin, need that these two kings come again in the way of war. But I know well King Arthur may not be long from you. For within a year or two ye shall have great need, and then shall he revenge you on your enemies, as ye have done on his. For these 11 kings shall die all in a day, by the great might and prowess of arms of 2 valiant knights, as it telleth after. Their names be Balin le Savage, and Balin, his brother, that be marvellous good knights as be any living. Now turn we to the 11 kings that returned unto a city that hight Sohort, the which city was within King Uriens, and there they refreshed them as well as they might, and made leeches search their wounds, and sorrowed greatly for the death of their people. With it there came a messenger, and told how there was come into their lands people that were lawless as well as Saracens, of 40,000, and have burnt and slain all the people that they may come by, without mercy, and have laid siege on the castle of Wansborough. Alas, said the 11 kings, here is sorrow upon sorrow, and if we had not warred against Arthur as we have done, he would soon revenge us. As for King Leodegrance, he loveth Arthur better than us, and as for King Rience, he hath enough to do with Leodegrance, for he hath laid siege unto him. So they consented together to keep all the marches of Cornwall, of Wales, and of the north. So first, they put King Idas in the city of Nantes in Britain, with 4,000 men of arms, to watch both the water and the land. Also they put in the city of Winderson King Nentes of Galahad, with 4,000 knights to watch both on water and on land. Also they had of other men of war more than 8,000, for to fortify all the fortresses in the marches of Cornwall. Also they put more knights in all the marches of Wales and Scotland, with many good men of arms. And so they kept them together the space of 3 years, and ever allied them with mighty kings and dukes and lords. And to them fell King Rience of North Wales, the which in Nero that was a mighty man of men. And all this while they furnished them and garnished them of good men of arms, and victual, and of all manner of habiliment that pretendeth to the war, to avenge them for the battle of Bettigrain, as it telleth in the book of adventures following. Chapter 19. How King Arthur rode to Carlion, and of his dream, and how he saw the questing beast. Then after the departing of King Ban and of King Bors, King Arthur rode into Carlion, and thither came to him King Lot's wife, of Orkney, in manner of a message, but she was sent thither to espy the court of King Arthur, and she came richly beseen, with her 4 sons, Gawain, Gaheris, Agravine, and Gareth, with many other knights and ladies. For she was a passing fair lady, therefore the king cast great love unto her, and desired to lie by her. So they were agreed, and he begat upon her Mordred, and she was his sister, on his mother's side, Igraine. So there she rested her a month, and at the last departed. Then the king dreamed a marvellous dream whereof he was sore dread. But all this time King Arthur knew not that King Lot's wife was his sister. Thus was the dream of Arthur. Him thought there was come into this land griffins and serpents, and him thought they burnt and slew all the people in the land, and then him thought he fought with them, and they did him passing great harm, and wounded him full sore, but at the last he slew them. When the king awaked, he was passing heavy of his dream, and so to put it out of thoughts, he made him ready with many knights to ride a-hunting. As soon as he was in the forest, the king saw a great hart afore him. This hart will I chase, said King Arthur, and so he spurred the horse, and rode after long, and so by fine force off he was like to have smitten the hart, whereas the king had chased the hart so long, that his horse lost his breath, and fell down dead. Then a yeoman fetched the king another horse. So the king saw the hart embushed, and his horse dead. He set him down by a fountain, and there he fell in great thoughts. And as he sat so, him thought he heard a noise of hounds, to the sum of 30. And with that the king saw coming toward him the strangest beast that ever he saw or heard of. So the beast went to the well and drank, and the noise was in the beast's belly like unto the questing of 30 couple hounds. But all the while the beast drank there was no noise in the beast's belly. And therewith the beast departed with a great noise, whereof the king had great marvel. And so he was in a great thought, and therewith he fell asleep. Right so there came a knight afoot unto Arthur, and said, Knight full of thought and sleepy, tell me if thou sawest a strange beast pass this way. Such one saw I, said King Arthur, that is past 2 mile. What would ye with the beast? Said Arthur, So, I have followed that beast long time, and killed mine horse, so would God I had another to follow my quest. Right so came one with the king's horse, and when the knight saw the horse, he prayed the king to get him the horse. For I have followed this quest this 12-month, and either I shall achieve him, or bleed of the best blood of my body. Pellinore, that time king, followed the questing beast, and after his death Sir Palomides followed it. Chapter 20. How King Pellinore took Arthur's horse and followed the questing beast, and how Merlin met with Arthur. Sir Knight, said the king, leave that quest, and suffer me to have it, and I will follow it another 12-month. Ah! Fool, said the knight unto Arthur, it is in vain thy desire, for it shall never be achieved but by me, or my next kin. Therewith he started unto the king's horse, and mounted into the saddle, and said, Gramercy, this horse is my own. Well, said the king, thou mayst take my horse by force, but an I might prove thee whether thou were better on horseback or I dot. Well, said the knight, seek me here when thou wilt, and here nigh this where thou shalt find me, and so pass on his way. Then the king sat in a study, and bade his men fetch his horse as fast as ever they might. Right so came by him Merlin like a child of 14 years of age, and saluted the king, and asked him why he was so pensive. I may well be pensive, said the king, for I have seen the marvellous sight that ever I saw. That know I well, said Merlin, as well as thyself, and of all thy thoughts. But thou art but a fool to take thought, for it will not amend thee. Also I know what thou art, and who was thy father, and of whom thou wert begotten. King Uther Pendragon was thy father, and begat thee on Igraine. That is false, said King Arthur. How shouldest thou know it? For thou art not so old of years to know my father. Yes, said Merlin, I know it better than ye or any man living. I will not believe thee, said Arthur, and was wroth with the child. So departed Merlin, and came again in the likeness of an old man of fourscore years of age, whereof the king was right glad, for he seemed to be right wise. Then said the old man, Why are ye so sad? I may well be heavy, said Arthur, for many things. Also here was a child, and told me many things that meseemeth he should not know, for he was not of age to know my father. Yes, said the old man, the child told you truth, and more would he have told you, and ye would have suffered him. But ye have done a thing late that God is displeased with you. For ye have lain by your sister, and on her ye have gotten a child that shall destroy you and all the knights of your realm. What are ye, said Arthur, that tell me these tidings? I am Merlin, and I was he in the child's likeness. Ah, said King Arthur, ye are a marvellous man, but I marvel much of thy words that I must die in battle. Marvel not, said Merlin, for it is God's will your body to be punished for your foul deeds. But I may well be sorry, said Merlin, for I shall die a shameful death, to be put in the earthquake, and ye shall die a worshipful death. And as they talked this, came one with the king's horse, and so the king mounted on his horse, and Merlin on another, and so rode unto Carlion. And anon the king asked Ector and Ulfius how he was begotten, and they told him Uther Pendragon was his father, and Queen Igraine his mother. Then he said to Merlin, I will that my mother be sent for that I may speak with her. And if she say so herself, then will I believe it. In all haste, the queen was sent for, and she came and brought with her Morgan le Fay, her daughter, that was as fair a lady as any might be, and the king welcomed Igraine in the best manner. Chapter 21. How Ulfius impeached Queen Igraine, Arthur's mother, of treason, and how a knight came and desired to have the death of his master revenged. Right so came Ulfius, and said openly, that the king and all might hear that were feasted that day, Ye are the falsest lady of the world, and the most traitorous unto the king's person. Beware, said Arthur, what thou sayest. Thou speakest a great word. I am well ware, said Ulfius, what I speak, and here is my glove to prove upon any man that will say the contrary, that this Queen Igraine is cause of your great damage and of your great war. For, and she would have uttered in the life of King Uther Pendragon, of the birth of you, and how ye were begotten ye had never had the mortal wars that ye have had. For the most part of your barons of your realm knew never whose son ye were, nor of whom ye were begotten. And she that bare you her body should have made it known openly in excusing of her worship and yours, and in like wise to all the realm. Wherefore I prove her false to God and to you and to all your realm. And who will say the contrary, I will prove it on his body. Then spake Igraine and said, I am a woman, and I may not fight, but rather than I should be dishonoured, there would some good men take my quarrel. More, she said, Merlin knoweth well, and ye Sir Ulfius, how King Uther came to me in the castle of Tintagil in the likeness of my lord, that was dead 3 hours tofore, and thereby get a child that night upon me. And after the 13th day King Uther wedded me, and by his commandment when the child was born it was delivered unto Merlin and nourished by him. And so I saw the child never after, knoweth not what is his name, for I knew him never yet. And they, Ulfius said to the queen, Merlin is more to blame than ye. Well I wot, said the queen, I bare a child by my lord King Uther, but I wot not where he is become. Then Merlin took the king by the hand, saying, This is your mother. And therewith Sir Ector bare witness how he nourished him by Uther's commandment. And therewith King Arthur took his mother, Queen Igraine, in his arms and kissed her, and either wept upon other. And then the king let make a feast that lasted 8 days. Then on a day there came in the court a squire on horseback, leading a knight before him wounded to the death, and told him how there was a knight in the forest had reared up a pavilion by a well, and has slain my master, a good knight. His name was Miles. Wherefore I beseech you that my master may be buried, and that some knight may revenge my master's death. Then the noise was great of that knight's death in the court, and every man said his advice. Then came Gryflet, that was but a squire, and he was but young, of the age of the King Arthur. So he besought the king for all his service that he had done him to give the order of knighthood. Chapter 22. How Griflet was made knight, and jousted with a knight. Thou art full young and tender of age, said Arthur, for to take so high an order on thee. Sir, said Griflet, I beseech you make me knight. Sir, said Merlin, it were great pity to lose Griflet, for he will be a passing good man when he is of age, abiding with you the term of his life. And if he adventure his body with yonder knight at the fountain, it is in great peril if ever he come again, for he is one of the best knights of the world, and the strongest man of arms. Well, said Arthur, so at the desire of Griflet the king made him knight. Now, said Arthur unto Sir Griflet, since I have made you knight, thou must give me a gift. What ye will, said Griflet, thou shalt promise me by the faith of thy body. When thou hast jousted with a knight at the fountain, whether it for ye be on foot or on horseback, that right so ye shall come again unto me without making any more debate. I will promise you, said Griflet, as you desire. Then took Griflet his horse in great haste, and dressed his shield and took a spear in his hand. And so he rode a great wallop till he came to the fountain, and thereby he saw a rich pavilion, and thereby under cloth stood a fair horse well saddled and bridled, and on a tree a shield of divers colours and a great spear. Then Griflet smote on the shield with the butt of his spear, that the shield fell down to the ground. Whereat the knight came out of the pavilion, and said, Fair knight, why smote ye down my shield? For I will joust with you, said Griflet. It is better ye do not, said the knight, for ye are but young, and late made knight, and your might is nothing to mine. As for that, said Griflet, I will joust with you. That is me loath, said the knight, but sit I must needs, I will dress me thereto. Of whence be ye? Said the knight, Sir, I am of Arthur's court. So the two knights ran together, that Griflet's spear all to shivered, and therewithal he smote Griflet through the shield in the left side, and brake the spear that the truncheon stuck in his body. The horse and knight fell down. Chapter 23. How 12 knights came from Rome and asked truage for this land of Arthur, and how Arthur fought with a knight. When the knight saw him lie so on the ground, he alighted, and was passing heavy, for he weened he had slain him, and then he unlaced his helm and get him wind. And so with the truncheon he set him on his horse, and so betook him to God, and said he had a mighty heart, and if he might live he would prove a passing good knight. And so Sir Griflet rode to the court, where great dole was made for him. But through good leeches he was healed and saved. Right so came into the court 12 knights, and were aged men, and they came from the Emperor of Rome, and they asked of Arthur truage for this realm, other else the Emperor would destroy him and his land. Well, said King Arthur, ye are messengers, therefore ye may say what ye will, other else ye should die therefore. But this is mine answer, I owe the Emperor no truage, nor none will I hold him. But on a fair field I shall get him my truage that shall be with a sharp spear, or else with a sharp sword, and that shall not belong, by my father's soul, Uther Pendragon. And therewith the messengers departed passingly wroth, and King Arthur is wroth, for in evil time came they then. For the king was passingly wroth for the hurt of Sir Griflet. And so he commanded a privy man of his chamber that, or it be day, his best horse and armour, with all that longeth unto his person, be without the city or tomorrow day. Right so, or tomorrow day, he met with his man and his horse, and so mounted up and dressed his shield and took his spear, and bade his chamberlain tarry there till he came again. And so Arthur rode a soft pace till it was day, and then was he ware of 3 churls chasing Merlin, and would have slain him. Then the king rode unto them, and bade them, Flee, churls. Then were they afeard when they saw a knight, and fled. O Merlin, said Arthur, here hadst thou been slain for all thy crafts had I not been. Nay, said Merlin, not so, for I could save myself and I would. And thou art more near thy death than I am, for thou goest to the death ward, and God be not thy friend. So as they went thus talking, they came to the fountain, and the rich pavilion thereby it. Then King Arthur was where sat a knight armed in a chair. Sir knight, said Arthur, for what cause abidest thou here, that there may no knight ride this way but if he joust with thee? Said the king, I rede thee leave the custom. Said Arthur, this custom, said the knight, have I used, and will use maugre who saith nay, and who is grieved with my custom let him amend it that will. I will amend it, said Arthur. I shall defend thee, said the knight. Anon he took his horse and dressed his shield and took a spear. And they met so hard either in others' shields, that all to shivered their spears. Therewith anon Arthur pulled out his sword. Nay, not so, said the knight. It is fairer, said the knight, that we twain run more together with sharp spears. I will well, said Arthur, and I had any more spears. I have enow, said the knight. So there came a squire and brought 2 good spears, and Arthur chose one and he another. So they spurred their horses and came together with all their mights, that either brake their spears to their hands. Then Arthur set hand on his sword. Nay, said the knight, ye shall do better. Ye are passing good jousters ever I met withal, and once for the love of the high order of knighthood let us joust once again. I assent me, said Arthur. Anon there were brought 2 great spears, and every knight get a spear, and therewith they ran together that Arthur's spear all to shivered. But the other knight hit him so hard in midst of the shield, that horse and men fell to the earth. And therewith Arthur was eager, and pulled out his sword, and said, I will essay thee, Sir Knight, on foot, for I have lost the honour on horseback. I will be on horseback, said the knight. Then was Arthur wroth, and dressed his shield toward him with his sword drawn. When the knight saw that, he alighted, for him thought no worship to have a knight at such avail, he to be on horseback and he on foot. And so he alighted and dressed his shield unto Arthur. And there began a strong battle with many great strokes, and so hewed with their swords that the cantels flew in the fields, and much blood they bled both, that all the place there as they fought was overbled with blood. And thus they fought long and rested them, and then they went to the battle again, and so hurtled together like 2 rams that either fell to the earth. So at the last they smote together that both their swords met even together. But the sword of the knight smote King Arthur's sword in 2 pieces, wherefore he was heavy. Then said the knight unto Arthur, Thou art in my dome whether me list to save thee or slay thee, and but thou yield thee as overcome and recreant, thou shalt die. As for death, said King Arthur, welcome be it when it cometh, but to yield me unto thee as recreant I had liefer die than to be so shamed. And therewithal the king leapt unto Pellinore, and took him by the middle and threw him down, and raced off his helm. When the knight felt that he was adread, for he was a passing big man of might, and anon he brought Arthur unto him, and raced off his helm and would have smitten off his head. Chapter 24. How Merlin saved Arthur's life, and threw an enchantment on King Pellinore and made him to sleep. Therewithal came Merlin, and said, Knight, hold thy hand, for when thou slay that knight thou puttest this realm in the greatest damage that ever was realm. For this knight is a man of more worship than thou wottest of. Why, who is he? Said the knight. It is King Arthur. Then would he have slain him for dread of his wrath, and heaved up his sword, and therewith Merlin cast an enchantment to the knight, that he fell to the earth in a great sleep. Then Merlin took up King Arthur, and rode forth on the knight's horse. Alas, said Arthur, what hast thou done, Merlin? Hast thou slain this good knight by thy crafts? There liveth not so worshipful a knight as he was. I had liefer than the stint of my land a year that he were alive. Care ye not, said Merlin, for he is wholer than ye, for he is but asleep, and will awake within 3 hours. I told you, said Merlin, what a knight he was. Here had he been slain had I not been. Also there liveth not a bigger knight than he is one, and he shall hereafter do you right good service. And his name is Pellinore, and he shall have 2 sons that shall be passing good men. Save one they shall have no fellow of prowess and of good living, and their names shall be Perceval of Wales and Lamerake of Wales. And he shall tell you the name of your own son, begotten of your sister, that shall be the destruction of all this realm. Chapter 25. How Arthur by the mean of Merlin gat Excalibur his sword of the Lady of the Lake. Right so the king and he departed, and went unto an hermit that was a good man and a great leech. So the hermit searched all his wounds and gave him good salves. So the king was there 3 days, and then were his wounds well amended that he might ride and go, and so departed. And as they rode, Arthur said, I have no sword, no force. Said Merlin, Hereby is a sword that shall be yours, and I may. So they rode till they came to a lake, the which was a fair water and broad. And in the midst of the lake Arthur was ware of an arm clothed in white samite, that held a fair sword in that hand. Lo, said Merlin, yonder is that sword that I spake of. With that they saw a damosel going upon the lake. What damosel is that? Said Arthur. That is a lady of the lake, said Merlin, And within that lake is a rock, and therein is as fair a place as any on earth, and richly beseen. And this damosel will come to you anon, and then speak ye fair to her that she will give you that sword. Anon withal came the damosel unto Arthur, and saluted him, and he her again. Damosel, said Arthur, what sword is that yonder the arm holdeth above the water? I would it were mine, for I have no sword. So Arthur, King, said the damosel, that sword is mine, and if ye will give me a gift when I ask it you, ye shall have it. By my faith, said Arthur, I will give you what gift ye will ask. Well, said the damosel, go ye into yonder barge, and row yourself to the sword, and take it and the scabbard with you, and I will ask my gift when I see my time. So Sir Arthur and Merlin alighted and tied their horses to 2 trees, and so they went into the ship. And when they came to the sword that the hand held, Sir Arthur took it up by the handles, and took it with him, and the arm and the hand went under the water. And so came unto the land, and rode forth. And then Sir Arthur saw a rich pavilion. What signifieth yonder pavilion? It is a knight's pavilion, said Merlin, that ye fought with last, Sir Pellinore. But he is out, he is not there. He hath ado with a knight of yours at Height Eglame, and they have foughten together. But at the last Eglame fled, and else he had been dead, and he hath chased him even to Carlion, and we shall meet with him anon in the highway. That is well said, said Arthur. Now have I a sword, now will I wage battle with him, and be avenged on him. Sir, you shall not so, said Merlin, for the knight is weary of fighting and chasing, so that ye shall have no worship to have ado with him. Also he will not be lightly matched of one night living, and therefore it is my counsel, let him pass, for he shall do you good service in short time, and his sons after his days. Also ye shall see that day in short space. You shall be right glad to give him your sister to wed. When I see him, I will do as he advise, said Arthur. Then Sir Arthur looked on the sword, and liked it passing well. Whether liketh you better, said Merlin, the sword or the scabbard? Me liketh better the sword, said Arthur. Ye are more unwise, said Merlin, for the scabbard is worth 10 of the swords. For whiles ye have the scabbard upon you, ye shall never lose no blood, be ye never so wounded. Therefore keep well the scabbard always with you. So they rode unto Carlion, and by the way they met with Sir Pellinore. But Merlin had done such a craft, that Pellinore saw not Arthur, and he passed by without any words. I marvel, said Arthur, that the knight would not speak. Sir, said Merlin, he saw you not, for when he had seen you, ye had not lightly departed. So they came unto Carlion, whereof his knights were passing glad. And when they heard of his adventures, they marveled that he would jeopard his person so alone. But all men of worship said it was merit to be under such a chieftain, that would put his person in adventure as other poor knights did. Chapter 26. How tidings came to Arthur that King Rience had overcome 11 kings, and how he desired Arthur's beard to trim his mantle. This meanwhile came a messenger from King Rience of North Wales, and king he was of all Ireland and of many isles. And this was his message, greeting well King Arthur in this mannerwise, saying that King Rience had discomfited and overcome 11 kings, and every of them did him homage. And that was this, they gave him their beards clean flayed off, as much as there was. Wherefore the messenger came for King Arthur's beard. For King Rience had purfled a mantle with kings' beards, and there lacked one place of the mantle. Wherefore he sent for his beard, or else he would enter into his lands, and burn and slay, and never leave till he have the head and the beard. Well, said Arthur, thou hast said thy message, the which is the most villainous and lewdest message that ever man heard sent unto a king. Also thou mayest see my beard is full young yet to make a purfle of it. But tell thou thy king this, I owe him none homage, nor none of mine elders. But or it belong to, he shall do me homage on both his knees, or else he shall lose his head, by the faith of my body. For this is the most shamefullest message that ever I heard speak of. I have espied thy king met never yet with worshipful man. But tell him, I will have his head without he do me homage. Then the messenger departed. Now is there any here, said Arthur, that knoweth King Rience? Then answered a knight that hight Naram, Sir, I know the king well. He is a passing good man of his body, as few be living, and a passing proud man. And, sir, doubt ye not he will make war on you with a mighty puissance. Well, said Arthur, I shall ordain for him in short time. Chapter 27. How all the children were sent for that were born on May Day, and how Mordred was saved. Then King Arthur let send for all the children born on May Day, begotten of lords and born of ladies. For Merlin told King Arthur they that should destroy him should be born on May Day, wherefore he sent for them all upon pain of death. And so there were found many lords' sons, and all were sent unto the king. And so was Mordred sent by King Lot's wife, and all were put in a ship to the sea, and some were 4 weeks old, and some less. And so by fortune the ship drave unto a castle, and was all to riven, and destroyed the most part, save that Mordred was cast up, and a good man found him, and nourished him till he was 14 years old, and then he brought him to the court, as it rehearseth afterward, toward the end of the death of Arthur. So many lords and barons of this realm were displeased, for their children were so lost, and many put the white on Merlin more than on Arthur, so what for dread and for love, they held their peace. But when the messenger came to King Rience, then was he without of measure, and purveyed him for a great host, as it rehearseth after in the book of Balin le Savage, that followeth next after, how by adventure Balin gat the sword.